Play.
Hold on. Let me go show you the media wall here. Give me a second.
Awesome.
Okay. Second. Okay. Hi. How you doing?
Oh, good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay, doing okay. I have been running around with my head chopped off early this morning. My girlfriend was like, "You gotta take out the trash and a whole bunch of stuff." I was like, "Okay." so,
Oh, believe me, I understand that.
yeah. I absolutely love your media wall. It's fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
I so I used to have every Criterion laser disc, including almost every DVD set, all the way up to 2013.
Damn.
And yeah, I've owned now two film archives, and when I say archives, I mean like a real like legit archive. My father, it was actually because of my father, he so when I sold my first mega collection in 2013, I made $1 million off it.
What?
Yeah, I had over 13,000 films, 10,000 vinyls, over 2,000 posters. I had 5 original signed posters, Star Wars posters, one by George Lucas. I also salvaged in 2006. I salvaged Sam Raimi's Evil Dead on 35 millimeter print. Yeah, and the list just keeps on going. Well, and
Oh, you got a 35 millimeter print of Evil
yeah,
Dead?
yeah. So Sam Raimi's Evil Dead was shot on 16 millimeter, but when it actually went to a theatrical release, it went to 35 millimeter print. And so I salvaged it in a basement while there was a private auction, a private what do you want? Wow, my brain's going down. Prop items for a private auction that was happening overhead. Yeah, that's a crazy story. So like in 2000, so to kind of get into it, my friend Tom, who's no longer with us, he if it wasn't for him, I would have never found it. And it was just stroke of luck that he wanted to go down the Skinner's to try to order or buy some props that were up for sale. And when we got down there, the auction was already over. But the owner of the props was actually outside of the building at the time. And when we walked in, he overheard my conversation with some guy. He came over to us and he was like, "Hey, I actually am the guy that was selling all these, props for film props, but I'm doing a private auction at my manor." And I was like, "Manor?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Wow, I've never heard, I haven't heard that term." And like from somebody. And he was like, "Yeah, come back to my mansion and maybe you might be able to acquire a film prop for your friend." And I was like, "Okay." So we went there and we were not dressed for the occasion at all. And by that time, when we went into his double stacked library in the mansion, this guy's auction, this guy had was absolutely one of the greatest prop collections I have ever probably have ever seen. And the first item that went up for sale was the second Doctor Who sonic screwdriver. Starting bid was $10,000.
What?
And I was like, "Oh man, there's no way with the 6 grand that we have, there's no way that we're gonna be able to buy anything here." So I quietly got up off the seat and went over to the guy and I was like, "Hey, is there anything I can do?" And he's like, "Well, we have a basement. I'm liquidating everything out of the mansion, and I'm just letting everything go." And I said, "Okay, okay." And he's like, "Well, the problem with the basement is that there's a lot of film material down there, but there's two problems. The first one is there's no lights. All the circuits in the basement burnt out." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he goes, the other problem is that the basement's flooded." And I was like, "Okay." And so he's like, "You're gonna have to have a flashlight or something." And so I had my rigging gear at the time, and I went down, I grabbed everything, and I come running down into the basement. And as I was in the basement, I started finding tons and tons of film material. And dude, this basement was absolutely. I don't know how long it went. I don't know how far it like depth wise, but it was absolutely probably gold mine worth of stuff, man. And so when I walked in, I found where the basement started flooding, and I started walking through the water, and it was like a maze. And so I started zooming around, and I found a box of I found a whole a bunch of boxes on top of each other. But as I was looking, panning around, I noticed like there was a door behind these boxes, and it was like canted. And so I started like moving the boxes, but the ground was flooded. So I started trying to put boxes on other boxes so that nothing would fall into the water.
Okay.
And I moved everything out of the way, and I found the door. And so I tried to get the door to open, and half the door split. So part of it went into this room. I moved the other part of the door out of the way, and I walked in, and nothing. And what I found was nothing but a huge, massive editing bay and film cans from floor to ceiling. And I couldn't believe it. And so I just started, like stuff like this, right? Stuff like that. So that comes from vinegar syndrome right there. So film cans like that, of course, also like the flat plates. And so I started just pulling them and pulling them and pulling them and pulling them. And eventually like my lights started dying, and I wasn't finding anything. And I was like, dude, there has to be a film in this massive fucking place, dude. There can't be just cans. There just can't be.
Oh,
And
they're
so I
all empty
walked out.
cans?
Yeah, I walked out, and I was like, I'm gonna check one more time. I have to do it. And I turned around and I walked in, and when the door split, part of the door when it went into the room, you couldn't see it because it went into the water, right? And so I walked in and I tripped. And so like when you walked into the room, there was a table right to the right of the door, and it had film cans on top of it, but I didn't realize it was film cans underneath the table. And so when I walked in, I tripped and I let my flashlight go, and it hit the floor, and the light resonated off the film cans underneath the table. And so I put my head down, I got into the water, and the first can I fucking picked up, I was like, oh, second can, oh my god, third can, and then I reached into the water and I pulled out the fourth can because the other three were sitting on top of it, and water was coming out of the can and everything, and I was like, well, there's something in here, but it's probably fucked. And so I picked up all the cans, all four of them, and I went back upstairs, and I didn't realize I was down there for almost over 2 hours. Like
What?
time stopped. I thought I was only down there for like 45 minutes. I was down there for 2 hours. I had no idea that I was down there that long. And by that time, the auction was over. And so I got up and I put the cans down, and I was like, fuck this. I opened it up, and I looked, and there it was. It said Evil Dead. And I just lost my shit. I lost my fucking shit. And my friend Tom, he was not a horror person. He loved comedies, he loved romance, that type of stuff. But his big passion was he loved film props. He never, that was his collection. That was his type of thing. I'm not a big prop type of guy. Like I love them, but I don't know. I love movies more than anything.
Yeah, yeah, same
And,
here.
and like I love posters and film, but film props, depending on what they are, I wouldn't mind having something, but it has to be like something that really resonates with me, right? So, anyway, I stood there and I looked, and the guy was like, "You want it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I didn't say anything about what it was. Like I didn't say a fucking word. I was just like, "Yeah, yeah, I like to have this." And he's like, "Well, your friend told me that you had about 6 grand on you. 6 grand." And I was like, "Yep, I will gladly put the 6 grand in." And so I did. I bought the Evil Dead, and I had all four film reels. The fourth one was completely dissolved. Um, and uh, and then in 2013, I took what was left of the Evil Dead, and I sold it to a private collector in LA because he actually had the ending of the Evil Dead, which was really funny. And that got all put together, and I think that film print, if I'm pretty correct, I think actually went on to doing the remaster of the Evil Dead when the 4K came out, I
Oh,
believe.
oh,
So I
so
never I never got credit for it because it got sold off. But I believe because I kind of had some things over the years about trying to figure out like where it's gone and stuff. and I'm pretty sure that it actually went to become salvaged for the Evil Dead print. So in some
Holy
sort of
shit.
capacity. Yeah, yeah. So like I said, like when I sold my mega collection, I had over 13,000 films, 10,000 vinyls, 2,000 posters. I had over 400 first edition signed film books, and then I had over 5,000 games. But the funny thing is that my father's the one that built my film archive, and he worked. So the funny thing is that my father, so he worked for Nintendo, Sega, and PlayStation. So he worked for Nintendo from 84 to 90, so 84 to 93. He then worked for Sega from 94 to 95, and then PlayStation from 96 to 97. And he went back to working for Nintendo in 98. And he did marketing and distribution for all three game companies. And his game collection in 2001, before he lost everything, had over 16,000 video games.
Gee.
And yeah, and so when he lost his game collection, he knew I was going to start going into the film world because I started doing sound engineering. And being that my father was never in, I never had a father figure in my life. I had absolutely really no idea who he was, like until like 99, 2000 when I got into his life. That's when I realized that he had a massive game archive, and so I cataloged everything. After he lost everything, he was like, "Well, I was going to give you this as like a super present, but I lost everything. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ultimately build you a film archive." And by his own hands, that's what he did. He started calling up everybody that he ever worked with all around the world. And I started getting all these boxes in, like VHS laser discs from Japan, UK, Australia, Germany, so on and so forth. And ultimately he did it for, because he ultimately he wanted me in his life, but he wasn't really around. A lot of things happened in the early 90s, and so yeah, he tried to make up lost time in his own way. And so uh so from so uh yeah, so I've had two film archives. My second archive right now I've been building by my own hands. My father stopped collecting and stopped doing stuff after 2013. um, in 2016, I saved a record store from closing, and this woman ended up buying a massive film archive from a local film guy in the area. She actually knew the family, and so the family went to her because they were very close, and they ended up showing her what she thought was a really rare record, but it was actually a laser disc. She didn't know what a laser disc was, and so she ended up acquiring this massive film archive, and she didn't know how to sell it because she only runs a record store. And so a friend calls me up and goes, "Hey, Carlo, you should probably come down and take a look." So I did. I went down there and I saw her. Come to find out, she acquired a pretty extensive film collection, and it was just like my father's collection, like my father's game collection in 2001. And this guy had so much things, like so many things, and it was pretty extensive. And so I said, "Well, look, I want to take 3,000 movies out of this collection, but by doing so, I'm gonna sell the rest of it because this guy had doubles upon doubles upon doubles, right?" And so I that's what I did. I ended up making her $83,000 off the collection, and I pocketed 3,000 movies. And so now my second film archive right now is over 9,000 right now.
Oh shit.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, I've had a lot of things, that have happened over the years. And I mean, this is just like a quick, like throw them right at you, type deal. But if I actually toned it down a little bit and actually had a longer, time to actually talk to you, I could, I could tell you a lot more and stuff, because I know you're gonna have to get going to work pretty soon. So, you know,
Oh,
um,
this is amazing. I did not think it was like that. It was like only that detail.
yeah, yeah. I've worked in the film industry for a very, very long time. I do film preservation work. Uh, and if it wasn't, for 2013, when I sold the collection, I went to Vinegar Syndrome first. And I tried to tell them, I was like, "Hey, look, I have a lot of film prints and stuff that I would love to see if I could probably do something with you guys because they're not that far away from me. I mean, I live in Massachusetts, they're in Connecticut, right?" And so they were just literally starting out. for the first time, and I came in swinging at them, and they're like, "Well, we don't have the capital, we don't have a lot of, at the moment, and we're just trying to build, slowly build." And I said, "Okay, well." Uh, I then pivoted over to Criterion, and I was like, "Hey, I have this other stuff," and it was because of that. That's when I started working with them a little bit, and then I went back to Vinegar Syndrome and worked for them for a very very short moment, and that's what got me into doing film preservation work. And so I've been blessed to kind of like, you know, kind of, pretty much archive and save any film that I've been able to get my hands on, and like, uh, when I sold the collection, what I did was I knew I was never going to find these VHSs ever again, or these laser discs, or, even maybe even the DVDs that I had, because I had a lot of out of print stuff. And I started, and including all the music that I had. And so what I did was I started recording everything the best I could at the time in 2013. And so I started digitalizing every VHS, every laser disc, every vinyl, every CD, every DVD that I had. And so now my digital archive in total is over 35,000 movies, music, and so on and so forth. And I have a Plex server. So anyone that gets on the Plex server, as long as you give me your email, you can get on for free and you get to see the entire archive that I have.
Oh my lord, that's a huge archive.
Yeah, it's huge. It's massive. And it's just like TV shows, anime, master classes, movies from all over the world, and stuff that you just can't find anywhere, and so I've done a lot. And the reason why I sold the collection in 2013, I had to make a choice. My father's health declined in 2013, and
Okay.
what happened was, and my mom wasn't doing too good at the time either. And so I was coming out of Fitchburg State University, coming right out of film. And at the time, Bad Robot, over in LA, J.J. Abrams' company was looking for interns to work for this thing that they were trying to do at the time. And I had a golden opportunity to go to LA to actually work for Bad Robot for J.J. Abrams. And I ultimately had a choice. Either I could watch my father pass away, or I could go to LA. And I decided on putting him first. And so I turned down going to LA, and I started selling off the collection because my father needed, um, he needed an operation, and the insurance wasn't going to pay for everything. So I turned around, I sold everything off, I got him the health care that he needed. I gave him kind of like a one up, and I took care of my mom. And then I paid off my mom's mortgage, and I paid off half my dad's mortgage. And then I pocketed whatever money I had left, and then the rest is history, kind of. so so yeah, so that's, so during 2013 was a big pivotal moment in my life that really turned around for me to work, here on the East Coast for a lot of the films that I've been able to work on. So and just having the ability to have met many different people over the years. And like I got to work with Leonard Nimoy before he passed. I got to work with Stan Lee for 2 years before he passed. I've worked with pretty much all the Star Trek guys. William Shatner, I fucking hate. I hate William Shatner with a passion. I,
I've heard some stories about
I
him.
I got some stories about him. Boy, I do. Um, and I've worked with Ben Affleck. He's also on the shit list. I don't like him either. I've worked with, Mark Wahlberg. I've worked with Johnny Depp. I've worked with a whole bunch of other different guys over the years. I mean, there's so many, in the TV shows I've worked on is just it's extremely humbling. Very very humbling. And I yeah, yeah, it's been a wild ride. But yeah, yeah, and so uh this is my father, well, now my house, because he's gone now. My mom passed away in 2020. My father passed away in 2022. When I had a film masterclass program I was trying to develop with Netflix, through UT down in Austin, Texas, when I was living there at the time. But unfortunately, when COVID came, I lost my Netflix deal. And I was hoping to create a really good film educational masterclass program for students that was designed as a TV show. And Netflix loved it so much that they gave me like a 2 million plus contract deal for it. But unfortunately, Netflix doesn't want to do any more educational stuff now, it seems. So they took it off the table, and I am trying to slowly get it back. And my goal is that if I can, I really want to produce a really good educational program for students, and I want to bring value back if I can to the film industry that I love so much, which is just getting slammed, cut down, and put through the ringer,
Yeah.
and it really sucks. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I want to do, and that's why I'm starting this TikTok channel, and I'm working on an intro for the YouTube show that I'm trying to do right now, and I'm hoping that if I can get some motion and I can get some help and some love, and if people really like what I'm trying to do, the goal is that that's what I want to do. I want to make really good educational content, and try to give it back to people, and part of that is actually kind of doing what we're doing right now. I'm working on a documentary to save one of the last remaining independent theaters right now, here in Massachusetts, and my goal is not just to do that, but also to pivot off to doing short interviews, kind of like what we're doing right now, with other creators from all over the world, and say like, why do you collect? Like, like why do you do this, and how did you get involved in this, and so on and so forth. And so I kind of want to make like a Charlie Rose kind of like forum where people can come down and actually like have real in-depth conversations about like collecting and what it means to actually have something for value for yourself,
Oh,
and so
hey.
that's what I want to do. Yeah, so I have a lot of things that I've been trying to get back. The It's been a lot. The house here has kind of stopped me. Last year, like I've had also a lot of troubles over the years. Like my mom passing, losing the Netflix deal, my dad. Last year, a contractor burned my house down. So I've been rebuilding the house, but right now it's just a storage unit, for the film archive. And so hopefully, once I'm done getting the house repaired, then I'm gonna try to turn this into the studio, in some sort of capacity, so I can actually start doing stuff. So it's been a lot.
Oh, that's
it's,
definitely a lot.
it's so many things, and I know I'm throwing so much stuff at you,
Oh, no,
but
you're good.
that's it. This is how my brain works. I don't sleep a lot, so I just it's go and go and go and go. But yeah. So uh, do you want to see the media wall?
Oh, yeah,
Let me
of
see.
course. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I hold on. I don't know if I think I can switch around. I believe. I think I can. There we go. Okay. So this is the first media wall in the house after the house burned down. So most of all this is all out of print. Like I said, a lot of this came from my first back in 2016. And it's been added in here. And I also have more stuff in the other room. But starting at the very top, Criterion start from number one all the ways down until we get into Arrow, right there. Um, and then from that point on, it goes from Arrow down to Powerhouse Indicator right here. And then I have like all my synapses. Like this is mainly where all the big out of print box sets will go on this wall. The wall on the other side of where I'm standing right here is going to be all the single discs type deal. So big box sets on this wall, and these are all the posters that I got. Uh,
Holy
and
shit, you got
then
a lot of posters.
yeah, I also own this. This is extremely rare. This is a Batman original, 1994, WB cell that was given to the directors and producers at the time. I have number 20 out of 40, and these don't ever come up. This is actually custom made for someone that wanted it, customized, either some director or producer from Warner Brothers for the show. Pretty cool,
That's
huh?
amazing.
Yeah. And it's signed at the bottom, but you can't see it. And then over here, see if I can kick this out of the way. I also have this. So this is a Full Metal Jacket replica of the gun, from Sergeant Pyle when he shot himself. And down there below, you might not be able to see, well, you can probably see it. This is number one of four. Vincent D'Onofrio did only four signings for these guns. and he's never signed another gun since. He stopped doing that, and so I got number one of four. And then over here, um, this is my vinyl collection. Most of all of this is soundtracks. There's a couple other things in here, but as you can see, like you can see the Lord of the Rings. A lot of these right here came from a friend who passed away this year. My friend Travis Starr. He was a film buddy of mine, and so when he passed, I inherited his entire collection of vinyl. So most of all this is his. Over here is his, and then over here, and then the rest are pretty much mine. And he was a really good friend of mine. But up here is uh, out of all my rare video games, mostly like RPG and horror games. That right there is a what used to be a sealed Nintendo, but the wrapper came off. But it's pretty much brand new inside. It's like never been used. I got tons and tons of film books down here. And then if I switch over to here, this is the entire Vinegar Syndrome archive collection. I own every single movie outside of this year that they've ever produced. And then I have all my out of print DVDs right here. I got some VHS right here that's more Vinegar Syndrome. And then if I switch over here, I have this I salvaged from the dump. So I got this customized made. These right here is Bush Cassidy and Sundance Kid. Though those are signed by Paul Newman and Robert Redford. So those are signed. I also have a hoverboard that's also signed by everybody from Back to the Future. Over here, like I said, I'm a huge Batman fan. So that's Adam West. Um, and then over here, I got some more Batman stuff. I got a John Cusack. This actually came from my friend Travis. He got this signed by John Cusack himself. And then over here, I got the Sting, which is everybody signed. So I got this customized made, and these are all originals. I love the Sting so much. I think it's one of the greatest films ever to be made. And so I took me a long time to get those. And then back here, there's another burnt Adam West and Burnt Ward signed. And then right there is my Clint Eastwood. And that is the gun down there is a real replica of the gun that he used. And then over here is part of my other collection. So I have all my animes and stuff up here. I have all my out of print anime box sets up here. Those right there are the Martin Scorsese Polish cinema box sets that came out. And then I have Shout Factory right here. And then it kind of just goes on and on and on and on. Mondo's down there. And then in here, including in this, these are all stacked. So if I pull these out, they're just movie after movie, so on and so forth. And then I have more movies here. And then if you can see that shipping container out there, that's where all the rest of my movies are.
Oh, you have that whole thing's full of movies?
Yeah, for the most part. I'm slowly been trying to pull everything out of it. I have a lot more posters inside there, and I have a lot more other things, but there's not that much in there at the moment. And so, yeah. And then that's my collection.
That is an amazing collection. I've
So
never seen a collection that like that's just like I'm speechless.
I usually do this to a lot of people. They're like, "Holy fuck! Like, what don't you have, Carlo?" And I go, "Well, I actually don't. I normally have everything for the most part. If I don't have it here in the collection, I also have it on the digital collection. Even though, like, I prefer, I prefer physical media, right?
Oh, hey.
And so the thing is that like when I had the house fire, I lost 200 movies, and most of them were Criterion. And I actually lost a good amount of anime and out of print box sets. And so I'm right now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to like catalog everything that I lost because I'm going to have to get it back at some point.
Oh, hey.
So yeah, it sucks because what happened was the fire in the house, the whole second floor went up, right? And so if I go over here, Sure. So this has all been rebuilt. These beams right here, original beams from the house. These got salvaged, which was really really good. But this entire back wall got burnt out. The whole staircase down here got fucked. So this is all brand new, but there's still a lot to work on. And then when I go down here, the stove is the thing that culprit. The contractor put installation inside the stovepipe and glued installation around the pipe itself inside the wall. And so when the stove was lit, it caused a backdraft and then it caught fire. And so this entire wall, including the kitchen and upstairs, was all gone. And I think that the contractor did that on purpose. So I'm in a lawsuit with him right now, including the insurance company. So yeah, so I lost all of that, and I lost the kitchen, and then I lost the second floor, and I almost lost all these beams. So yeah, but this is the house. That's my ticket sign. I salvaged that. It's a Carney ticket sign. As you can see, it's like just tons of debris all over the place. Um, but yeah, so these beams are originally from all the trees my dad cut down on the property back in the early 90s. And originally, this house wasn't supposed to be the house. I actually have um, a massive, oh, what do you want to call it? Um, oh my God, foundation in the back. And the foundation in the back was originally supposed to be where the house was. And if I ever get to show you, I'll show you what it looks like at some point. But the goal is that if I can actually build on top of the foundation, I want to actually turn that into the studio, and so that I can actually move my film archive, put it out there, and actually start really hammering the show that I really want to do. And but it's a lot of money. Gonna
Oh,
be some
yeah, I can
time.
imagine. Oh, hey.
uh, but yeah. So this is it's a little bit about me. It's a little bit about my collection. So I hope you enjoyed.
Oh, I did. That was just like very a little well, so much. I was like a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I plan on doing a lot more. I don't know if you've been able to check out the channel or not, but what I'm doing is I'm doing like a little slideshow event. So I'm showing off the entire collection first, and once all of it is complete, then I'm gonna start slowly doing the show that I really want to do. And so I'm gonna start posting up interviews and talking to people, and slowly start rolling out, what I really want to do in the future. So I'm looking for people like yourself to kind of sit down and talk to, and start making something out of it. You know,
Oh, yeah, I would love to be a part of it in any way, shape, or form. That just sounds amazing.
yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to give back the love. My father was always about like, hey, always put always pay it forward, and so that's what I want to do. I mean, I can't take any of this with me when I'm gone, but if I can give back in some sort of way, that's why I built the Plex server. That's why I built a big, huge media server, so that people can come on. And I can't get paid for the server because, of course, I don't own the rights to all these movies, even though I digitally archived everything. But if people want to kind of like maybe give me something, that's not towards the server, let's just say, then it'll help me out, and I can keep adding more commentaries and special features and stuff like that, to all the movies that I've listed up. And I pretty much, for the most part, have every Criterion movie on the server, I believe. Don't hold me to it, but I'm pretty sure I do. And yeah, yeah. So I got a lot of stuff.
That's amazing.
But yeah, so you got any questions?
Well, I am kind of curious. Like, when you said that you do film preservation and like how you're telling me the story about with the
The 35 millimeter print.
35 millimeter, sorry, it's the 35 millimeter film. So how do you like? So how did you get like? How did you do that? Like how did you get into that?
So the funny thing is that before I actually had the print, before I found it, my father acquired me 8 millimeter and 60 millimeter film prints. And those film prints, well, they weren't Disney, or they weren't there was some animation, but they were actually adult films. And it was actually through, the adult adult films that actually got me into doing film preservation work. And the thing is that like, you know, I mean, a lot of people don't like talking about adult films, but I love talking about adult films because, you know, it is a pivotal thing in history, right? I mean, when I teach film history, I talk about 42nd Street. I talk about, you know, the golden age of, you know, the industry and how 42nd Street really did, you know, change, you know, the aspect of what we know of cult cinema, right?
Yeah.
and and the thing was is that it also, you know, exploitation, adult cinema, cult films, they all wrap around each other in some sort of fashion, right? And so, you know, when I started getting all these adult films, that was really the hot ticket for me to kind of be like, okay, well, you know, I know that they might be adult films, but they do have they have a sense of being, right? I mean, for me, I tell everybody, fine, you know, you can pick any type of genre, you can see whatever you want, but if you haven't seen something, you can't really say you haven't liked it or seen it or
Right.
say
Yeah.
something about it, right? And you shouldn't be afraid or, you know, about seeing something that, you know, I mean, you know, watch something that offends you because you know what, you should probably do it anyway. You know, if you have a problem and it's going to be on you type deal, you know. And so I tell everybody, I'm like, yeah, watch something out of your normal norm and see where that goes, you know. And you know, whatever floats your boat, you know. And I mean, that's what film is, right? Animation, film, whatever, you know, art in general, you know. And so I don't mind talking about certain things and actually having really deep conversations about stuff, right? But that's kind of how I started because of the adult industry. And I actually have worked in the adult industry. I worked for Playboy, worked for Hustler, worked for Bang Bros, I've worked for a variety of other different places and whatnot. Yeah, over the years. Um, and then, you know, I've also worked in the film industry. So I've pretty much seen everything you could think of. You know, but yeah, it's because of that, you know. And I mean, Vinegar Syndrome started off doing adult cinema, right?
I
I mean,
read that. Yeah, they started off.
you yeah, and so you have like Diplex, and then you have, you know, what's his name, you know, like this thing, you know, the new company out there is Pulse Video, and you have a whole bunch of other different labels that have come out over the years that have, you know, been doing stuff. And you know what, and I mean, you know, Something Weird Video, I mean, you got to look at them, right? I mean, they're one of the first companies, you know, other than Massacre Video, that started putting out adult cinema, right? I mean, on VHS, you know. And I mean, there's a couple other ones, but they're a huge label that, you know, really started pioneering all this stuff, you know. And again, they started with adult exploitation and cult cinema, you know. And now that we have all these movies and now that we have all these things, you know, people are really trying to preserve all of this material because it ultimately needs to be, right?
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, you know. And so yeah, so digitally archiving and storing stuff, you know. And I mean, when you get into the digital, or when you archive something and you get into a digital format, there's step-by-step processes on what you need to do, right? You know. And so you have to clean the film. If it's vinegarized, then you know, it's pretty much gone at that point. um, and you know, you're either using the real negative or an interlace, and people really want, you know, original negative because it's not been tampered with, you know. But you know, that's getting harder and harder to come by now because film only lasts for so long, and if you don't take care of it in the proper format or proper way, it's going to go, it's ultimately going to degrade, right?
Well, that's where I have a question too, because I'm I'm not an expert on the subject, but I do try to read up on a lot of stuff and watch a lot of interviews. I know like Martin Scorsese, he when he did the Film Foundation, he started the Film Foundation. He said that film reels, even Nolan says that, or he said in an interview I'm reading with, he says that film reel, like on 35 millimeter, is the best way to preserve film.
It is, but you have to store it in the right capacity. So it is the best way of doing it, but the caveat is as that if you don't store it the right way, it will go away. That's the thing.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So like
So
Nolan, he has his own, I guess. I don't know. I'm just
yeah,
guessing like he was talking. And he's saying when he has like that 35 millimeter is or film is the best way to store, is the best preservation is actual film. He means that's the best way to do it, but it's a very costly and extensive process.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Because a lot of people, don't store this stuff in the correct way, right? And so eventually it will degrade. Eventually, if you get water, you know, anything that anything that has to have a fluctuation in temperature, right? Will always have some sort of problem, right? Condensation, just like even a slipcover, right? If you have, water or anything, the slipcover will start to bend and whatnot.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's just reality, right? And so like if you put it in a damp basement, that's going to be a problem. If you put it into a really hot climate, that may also be a very problem. You kind of have to have a balance for temperature wise, and yeah, and they are right. 35 millimeter print, 75 millimeter print. I mean, it that's that is the golden ticket for anybody, for a filmmaker, because it takes in so much detail. Film takes in so much detail, right? And it's like it's the best. It really is the best format. And digital is fine, but you get a lot of, I mean, digital cameras have gotten better over the years, right? And they're always going to keep getting better and better and better and better. But a true purist always loves film because it has grain, right? It gives you that grain. It gives you the nuance of, of a time, right? And we just don't have that anymore. And film gets really expensive. I always tell all my students, if I get to work with any of my students, I say, think about your memory card as a film reel, or film stock, right? Every time you turn your camera on, you're burning money. And they don't think about that, because the idea is that they have
Infinite.
infinite time, and they can keep shooting and shooting and shooting and deleting and shooting and deleting and shooting. But in reality, if you think about your card as as film stock, and you think about your shots, you start thinking about what how much it can be for money wise, right? I mean, that is just gone out the window. People don't have to think about that anymore. But if you put a student in a box, and you say, okay, you get 3 cards at this many gigs. Those 3 cost this X amount of money, because technically they're film stock. You only get X amount of shots to do. And now you have to start thinking outside the box about, okay, let's say if I actually had a budget and I was actually shooting on film, how much time and how many things can we actually do before we start burning money out of our pockets, right? So if you start having a concept idea about, money, budgeting, the factors of, trying to condense your script down and actually shoot stuff that's necessary, that's where things really start to play in, and that's why you see a lot of filmmakers today, and you see a lot of films, and you're like, oh man, I mean, they just suck, they don't have the glory of what we have for nostalgia, right? I mean, all of us will love the 60, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s films, maybe even the 2000s, right? But we're all stuck in those decades. and,
Right.
and we look at film today and we go, I can't even remember the movies I saw last year, because none of them were good. Maybe like 2. I might have 2 on my wall from last year, and guess what, from last year, right, was Oppenheimer, right?
Oh
So yeah,
yes.
and so guess
That
what,
was that was
that's the
classic.
only, and that's again,
Childhood film.
that would be in the wall more than any other film that came out, right? And so it's like, again, these older directors have a sense of what they've been doing over the years, and they have appreciation, they have a love. And Martin Scorsese, is, you know I I mean, we're going to lose him at some point, and I hate to say it. I mean, we're going to lose everybody at some point, but he is probably one of the greatest gifts to mankind for just doing film preservation work, or even like having the ability to do whatever he has done for, doing this type of work, and there's other directors out there that do it too, but Martin Scorsese, is on that high mountain,
Oh yeah.
and once we lose him, we're gonna see who's gonna want to try to pick up the mantle, because that's gonna be pretty hard to do, um, and yeah, we're never gonna get movies like these guys ever again, and if we do, it will be interesting to see what will happen, right? Because a lot of genres they're just collapsing now, horror is still kind of kicking around, right? But we don't have westerns, we don't have musicals, we don't have teen sex comedies, we don't have parodies, we don't have so on
Well,
and
it's
so
like
forth,
the musicals, I feel like are I don't want to say they're going to come back, because I feel like they're trying to force a comeback and they're just not really working. Like La La Land, I think really was a great musical and it really kind of set a standard. And then after that, we had like the Mean Girls remake that was supposed to be a musical, the Wonka, especially. Like I feel like now they're just kind of throwing musicals out there and it's not really working.
yeah, it's not really working, and I don't know. I mean, musicals have always been a hard thing to do anyway. Just to sell a musical is pretty hard. I mean, if you look at musicals wise out of the genre, it's actually a really small genre, more than, for most part, but I mean, all the best ones are the best. They're the classics, You can't beat the classics,
And I have
Um,
to say, that actually makes me feel so much better what you're saying about how, all the films that came out in the last year or so, you can't remember how, like, you really don't remember what you saw because they weren't that good. Because people always ask me, like, what's a movie you've seen recently? And I always draw a blank, and I feel like, not a fraud, but I feel like, how do I love movies, but I can't tell? I mean, I can tell you the last movie I watched that was an older film, but I can't
uh-huh.
tell you the last movie I saw and really talk about that came out 2 months ago because it just really wasn't that
Yep.
that good. I feel like that it makes me feel, it reassures me. Okay, it's not just me. It's
Yeah. Well, no, and I mean, and that's hitting everybody. I mean, like this year, I will remember like seeing Romulus, Beetlejuice, right? Those two films definitely. I want to see The Substance because I love Cronenberg and I love David Lynch, and I hear The Substance is absolutely fantastic. And I actually have the director's first film, which is Revenge, and which was absolutely, I loved her stuff, and she's a French director, and I can't think of her name right now, let alone even say her name. But I'm really happy for her. I love supporting women in film because we need more film. We need more women in film. But yeah, I want to see The Substance. I also want to see Nosferatu because I actually worked on The Witch. I did
oh,
3 days on The Witch, yeah, and it was really cool meeting Edgar and Anna Taylor Joy. So that was pretty cool meeting her. But I was only out in that for 3 days, unfortunately. So, but that was fun to be on. That was pretty cool. But yeah, so look forward to Nosferatu Substance, which I believe is already out right now. So I want to go see it. And then what else? There was another movie I wanted to see, but now it's again it's skipping my head. But yeah, like this year and even last year, and the year before that. I mean, for me, for in taking film wise, has just like theater wise has gone down the drain. Like I used to see probably you know I would say more than 25 films a year, in the theater or more, right?
yeah.
But now I probably only see two now or three now, since COVID,
Oh yeah.
Mm. But I'm still gonna pick the movie up on the, put it in the collection, and I'm gonna see a movie some sort of way, right? If I have to, see it digitally or whatever, if I can't see it in the theater, I'm still gonna want to pick it up, in some sort
Oh
of
yeah. No,
place.
I understand that. Yeah.
But and I'm not the type of person for reviews. I don't do IMDb reviews or Rotten Tomato. I go right to Letterbox because I think Letterbox is a wonderful way of valuing reviews. And I always say, the best reviewer is going to be yourself, right? And maybe that's not always the case, but if you're a film person, the best reviewer may actually just be you. And so, and everybody has their own different taste and stuff. And I like seeing reviews from other people because I like the comments that they put in, which is just fucking hilarious. you know, I mean, you could do an entire showcasing on Letterbox and just finding the most dumbest, things that people have posted and stuff on any film. And it's just remarkable. I mean, you could do that for a long time, and that's probably a smart thing to do. you know.
That's like a good thing to do.
But yeah, actually, talking about other things. Hold on, let me show you. So recently, these popped in, and this is what I was actually telling you about in the chat. So this right here is the great teacher Onzak. This one right here is from Discotic, or Discotic. I believe that's how you like to say the name. But this is an older anime, and this, if you get the chance to, you should definitely see this one. This is actually on my Plex server, and it's wonderful. It's one of my all-time favorites. It's a great comedy.
Is it a movie or a series?
It's a series. It's 42 episodes. And so it's definitely worth the watch. And then I got Island of Fire. This is from 88 Films. I think they did Jackie Chan wrong with that face a little bit, but whatever. And if you have never seen this film, I would highly recommend picking this one up. So they just released it. This is all region, so you should be able to pick this up on Amazon.
Okay.
So 88 Films has been doing a lot of Jackie Chan films. They actually have been putting out a lot of like Cat 3 and more Hong Kong films than any other label at the moment. Every other label has been trying to catch up to them. So if you've noticed, like Eureka, those guys have been trying to really like put out a whole bunch of stuff. It's because of these guys. These guys are the ones that have really been showing the world, oh hey, people really want Japanese, Thai, Hong Kong films, Korean films, and Bollywood films, right? I mean, and I think Bollywood in general is actually a lot harder to get for movies because they never stored anything correctly, and so we've lost an incredible amount of Bollywood films over the years. And so yeah, so if you ever come across like any type of Bollywood Indian film, really, I would highly recommend putting it into your collection. And maybe it may not be your taste or anything, but if you get the chance to, I would highly snatch it if you can, because they're really hard to come by.
I have this weird thing where I don't know why, but anything foreign, I always pick it up. Like any foreign film, if it's a foreign film, I buy it, just because I feel like it's more obscure and it's gonna be harder to come across later on.
Yeah.
I have a wall over there. It's like pretty much all my foreign films, and just because I feel like they're gonna be hard, like they're more obscure, you're not gonna be able to see them in other formats.
Yeah. Yeah, like something like this. So this is the late Muzagachi box set. This is the one of the first Blu-rays that Eureka was putting out. If you ever get the chance to find this, and excuse me, you're gonna know that this is pretty expensive. But if you can get your hands on this, I highly recommend it. I really, really do. And I don't know if any of these movies have actually been put out as single releases. I'm pretty sure that maybe one of these have, but I've never seen them. And I think they're only dedicated to this box set. So if you ever get the chance to, you should probably look for this if you can.
Okay, I'll definitely check that out. Look for that one.
It's going to be expensive, but I'm telling you right now, it would be really worth your time putting in your collection. Because if you like Criterion, you should. I mean, I'm guessing you also have a lot of Eureka stuff, right?
Not too much Eureka, no.
Okay. Well, I would recommend looking them up, and I would recommend putting some of their stuff in your collection as well. If you're looking for at least foreign films, especially Japanese films, they actually have a really good listing than Criterion has. And however, their stuff is now kind of out of print, so it'll be a little bit more expensive, but I would recommend it. And that's one of the boxes that once you put that in your collection, you're going to be thanking me later. So,
I'll definitely look at that. Is it something you can find online, or did you find that like in a store
uh,
somewhere? Or?
no, I actually. So when Eureka started putting out Blu-rays, right? I mean, they started. I want to say it was, yeah, I was think it was around the same time, around like 2013, maybe 14, I think. I have to double check on that. But when they started doing, like, Criterion started doing Blu-rays, and then Eureka jumped on that, and they started doing their own thing. And then Arrow Video was doing their own thing at that point, because they were doing the window boxes um, for their first Blu-ray run, right? And so all these, like, Arrow, um, Criterion, and then Eureka were, I think, were the first three to really start producing Blu-rays, really. And then they started trying to do, like, Eureka tried to do limited box sets at first, and so did Arrow. Criterion, of course, doesn't really do box sets other than, like, if they're doing their clip series, right?
Oh yeah.
And for the most part, you know, and they if you really think about it, they've only put out a really not that many box sets. I mean, like the Zuichi box set, you got Godzilla, you got the Bergman, right? Stuff. I mean, there's a couple other ones that I have, but for the most part, they ain't doing like what Arrow has been doing, right? Arrow's just pushing out and pushing out, and Severin's just been pushing out and pushing out box sets,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. And now it's like, holy fuck, because most of all these movies that you see behind me are mostly by Arrow and like Synapse and whatnot, and so but yeah, I but yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so Eureka is definitely a label that you should look up, and now that we have Radiance coming up on the platform, which is a brand new company. They only came out, what, last year? No, 2 years. They've been out for 2 years now, I think. They have been producing some incredible cinema. So now Criterion, Indicator, Eureka, and now Radiance, and of course Imprint, if you really want to throw them in there, are now like the five, like, high, like, big, art cinema, labels now, right? And I mean, of course, you can say Arrow is also up there, but they do a lot more cult stuff. Finneker Syndrome does more cult stuff. Severin, Synapse, Blue Underground,
Yeah, it's like
but yeah, yeah. Anyway, um, there's some labels I'm throwing out. You probably know them.
I didn't mention a couple of them kind of thing there. I'm not too familiar with Eureka. I've heard of them. I think I might have seen one or two things, but I'm not too familiar with them.
Well, the good thing is that they're finally doing A region stuff now. So if you can get to pick up some of their stuff, I would recommend it. And I presume you must already have an all region player.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Um, so you can play almost anything you want, which is good. And for anyone that doesn't, I mean, depending on how you throw this out there on the net, I will say that if you're, if you like B region stuff or want to get into A, B, and C, you should get an all region player.
Well, I'm a big supporter. I'm a huge supporter of the all region players, simply because a lot of times too, just with the movies I've seen, like indie films, they'll put out films you get them on Amazon from UK, from the UK for like a fraction of the price. Like I knew
Mhm.
Sleepaway Camp. I got that for Sleepaway Camp 2. I think it was like $19 from 88 Films in UK.
Mhm.
To buy that
Mhm.
on Blu-ray in America, it's like for the American release
Yeah.
from Shout Factory, it's like $400.
Yes, because they're out of print,
They're at
and
like a
they're out
limited
of
run
print.
of them.
Yeah, and Shout Factory owns the rights to those, right? And so that's the thing. Anybody else that wants to try to get them here is going to have a hard time, because they're under the contract of, I would presume they're under the contract of Shell Factory. And so, like, other labels, outside of America can have their own, buy in for their own rights. so that they can actually get the producing, material for those movies, but they can't. They can only produce it over there, right?
Ah,
And so
okay.
on and so forth. And so when people say, "Oh, well, I want to get this movie, but why is it on B region?" Well, because some company actually owns the right to the movie here, but it might just be on DVD. It might be, or whatnot. But they'll have to. What they'll do is, so a company can buy a right to a movie, but if they do the right to a DVD, they get that right. But the thing is that if they don't upgrade to a Blu-ray, someone else can snipe it, right? So rights can actually be manipulated in certain ways, depending on time, depending on how long you have the right for, depending on a lot of other different factors, right? So we'll see like other companies that own, that produced another movie, and then another company here in America picks it up because that older company lost the rights and now it's been picked up, right? But if a
Right.
movie over in England, the UK, picks something up here, they can't do an A region or an all region because another company had already bought that right. So they have
Ah,
to, yeah. So there's a lot of different factors. There's a lot of different things to think about, and rights become there's a lot of problems within that space, because I mean, there's some issues. Like for instance, now, right, we're looking at Cannibal the Musical, right? So the new company that's over in the UK, is trying to put that out as an all region. Well, Vinegar Syndrome over here has now also announced that they have their own version coming out. So now they're actually having a battle, right? And if you look at like what's going on, that happens, right? And so they'll be like, well, two competing companies don't want to have another competitor stepping on their stuff, right?
right. Yeah, yeah.
And even though it shouldn't have to happen, we should all be playing the same game. People should have the right to actually like produce something else that's different, while another company should produce something different. But Vinegar Syndrome has looked like the bully in this situation, right? And that's also kind of happened with when Synapse did their release of they call her One Eye, right? And Vinegar Syndrome put out their release, and Vinegar Syndrome was like, oh hey, you can't do that because we already have the rights to. And so Severin or Synapse was like, I'm gonna do that, but then they got slammed by Vinegar Syndrome, and unfortunately it was Synapse that had the wrong thing to do, and Vinegar Syndrome had the rights into that, and so you get to see this kind of bouncing back and forth a lot. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. And then people can get sued, and the whole right.
Oh,
And that's a whole other thing. And so you have to kind of think about, people don't think about this, right? And so when you start looking at the ways of how other companies are putting out certain material, you know, it's always better to have something that can support everything, because, you know, that movie that you really want might just be overseas and there's no way else you can get around it, right? So why not have something that you can play everything on, right?
oh, hey.
And it's like the backwards compatible PS3s. So I have two of them. I have a Japanese one, an American one, and that allows me to play every single PlayStation game on 1, 2, and 3, across the entire spectrum of both the US and Japan. And with those machines, it allows me to have that capability, right?
Right. Hey.
Because for the most part, you're not able to do that, right? And so that's why I have those two machines. If they ever go down, well, that I'm fucking shit out of luck.
Oh,
And they're
yeah.
expensive. They really are expensive. So but yeah, yeah. So yeah, like I said, I have a lot more Criterion in my collection, but I lost around 200 movies last year, so I have to put whatever Criterions that I lost
Back to the question.
back into the collection again. But But yeah, actually, I had a question for you.
Oh yeah.
What's one of your favorite? And this is gonna be
It's-
this one's gonna be a hard one. But out of Criterion, out of the what is a good couple ones that you go to when it comes to Criterion? Like, is there anything that you like? Oh, okay. If I was gonna pick like a couple, like three films out of the collection that I have, what would be your go-to?
um, that's a tough one. I definitely gotta say Lone Wolf and Cub because I discovered that through Criterion and I absolutely love them. So
Yes.
Lone Wolf and Cub. Um, is it exclusive just to the Criterion Collection or just like films the Criterion Collection produces?
No, it could be both. It could be yeah. I'm not gonna limit to you. I know it's a hard thing because there's so many movies, right?
Um, I gotta go Chasing Amy. It only ever got it does have a Criterion Collection release, but only on DVD.
Yes, it's just
But
on DVD. Yes.
I love that movie, and that was again, it's not like a Criterion exclusive or a film that like you have to get on Criterion, so to speak. But it's
Mhm.
like one of my favorite movies. And then for the third, I'm gonna go Seven Samurai.
Are you picking up the 4K?
I think I'm gonna have to. Yeah. I only have it on DVD right now. I think I'm gonna have to pick the 4K when it comes out. I'm like,
Oh, oh
I'm gonna
yeah,
wait for it to go
dude.
on
You
sale.
definitely you're gonna have to fucking upgrade, man. You
Yeah,
can't just keep it on DVD. You gotta upgrade.
yeah. I'll wait till it goes to the Amazon 50% off. Because some of those, that's
They're
the thing I
expensive.
don't get. Those like they're so expensive, but then they go on sale like periodically through. Like I've been when trying to get complete, been on Amazon. There's so many like they have their annual like 50% off sales, but Amazon has them like 50% off throughout the year, just different titles all the time.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't get why they're so expensive just normally though.
Well, Criterion has always been that way. Well, Criterion has always been that way, right? They are. I mean, for the most part, they're a premium company. That's what people at least make them out to be, right?
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for them, I don't know if we would have all these boutique labels. And you have to
Oh, without
understand, like,
question. Yeah.
these guys, Criterion is the first, company to actually give us audio commentaries right on their laser discs. And it was because of that, that's what spawned, what we have today, right? And so, they should get a lot of love and a lot of factors that, yeah, if you're looking for a Criterion movie, yeah, it's going to be expensive, but you're not going to be able to get this movie anywhere else, right? With the special
Oh,
features that you're looking for. So yeah, to be honest with you, a lot of this, you have to think the reason why they're so high is because the cost value of their back end, right? They're, you know, they're paying up to get interviews. They're trying to get, the rights to all the older, supplementary stuff, right?
yeah.
Those also have rights issues too, right?
Oh,
And so everything has rights problems. But the biggest thing is that, like, they're, trying to get audio, like new audio commentaries and so on and so forth, and even just trying to remaster the movie, and a
it's
better,
expensive.
it's fucking extremely expensive. Yeah. And
You
so,
know that
you know,
like for a prime example, I think it was in July they had their 50% off sale. And
mhm,
one of the ones I was trying to pick up was Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me.
mhm.
And I looked at Barnes and Noble's like there was one, it was like an hour and 45 minutes away, had a copy in stock instead of online. And I was like, oh, should I try to draw there to get to work? I'm like, nah, I'll go online and get it. And then it was sold out online. And then like later that night, Criterion put it back on saying it was available to order. So I had to pay like I think like almost $50 for the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And that was in July. I got it probably the first week in August. And then I was
Yep.
on Amazon like 2 days ago looking at movies from Criterion. And then I was on Amazon again on sale for $25.
Yep. Well, see, again, what happens is that people. Okay, so this is what happens. So we have scalpers, right?
Oh
We
yeah.
have a whole we got the scalpers, and there's people out there that ultimately buy more than just one copy.
Yeah, they
And so
sell because
when
on
they
eBay I seen that night
yeah,
as it went
and
out of print. They were selling
yep,
for like $90.
yeah, and that's what they do. they make you believe that they're out of print, but they're really not. And by that time, they already got you, and now you're already paying out more than what you should be. And the thing is that Criterion keeps putting out more and more discs. They have a stock here, they'll go through it, and then they'll come out with another stock. And the thing is that they don't, skip out on the books or anything like that, right? Unlike other labels, because Criterion has the ability to do so because they have the capital to do it. A lot of these other companies don't have that, and so they can only do a limited run for a short time before they start doing a single disc, right? And Criterion is able to give you more than before it actually starts to go out of print. And unless if it's like the caveat to that is that if it is a title that they only have so much right issues to, then yes, then it will go out of print pretty quick.
Because I actually ordered it from Criterion's website. Like when Criterion, I had to pay like the extra $7 to ship it from the Criterion website, and it said it was out of stock. And so didn't know when it was come available again. So I hit notify me when it comes available, and then the other night I got the notification. So I was like, it's full price, but I'm just gonna head and buy it. I thought it was going out of print. Like I thought they were like some other titles that go out of print, and like I know the Killer, not the Killer, the Killer. I can only seen 2 copies online right now that you can actually buy the Killer in from Criterion, and they're like almost $300.
Yep. Well, the thing about that, like I said, the thing about that is that they, I mean, you have to also think when the Killers came out, right? Whenever they put it out, right? So if they have the right issue, if they have the rights to the movie for X amount of time, that time of course dwindles down as time keeps going on, and eventually it will go out of print, right? And so so it's good to kind of like buy in pretty quick, but it may not be, it's not going to go away just yet, but older material, older Criterion Blu-rays, of course, are now going to be out of print, right? So for instance, like I can actually get this, and they don't make these anymore, right? So for instance, and these are probably not as much as they used to be, because of course now they're on 4K, but you get like the 400 blows, right? This is their like really thin cases. I still have The Man Who Fell to Earth sealed, never opened it. And actually these movies actually came from the collection that I got back in 2016, and these were already out of print by 2016. I also have Cha-Ching Express, and then the infamous Third Man, and I have this and the regular case. So I have 2 copies of this, right? And so like these are hard to find, and whatnot. And so and I believe 400 Blows is on 4K. Cha-Ching Express is on 4K. I don't think there's no. The Man Who Fell to Earth is on a different label now, and I think the Third Man is also, it's on another label now. I can't think of who.
The Cha-Ching Express, is that 4K or is it just Blu-ray?
I believe it's I thought it was supposed to be in 4K on Criterion. I could be wrong.
Well, that one actually you can only get in the world of Wong Chong. You can only get that.
Yeah. I could be wrong. But I my brain keeps saying it's on 4K now, but I could be wrong. If not, then that's fine. It's a 2K upgrade, which would be
Dude, because I said to buy this because a lot of his movies only came for the in this like box set.
Yep, which I also have up there. I also have here. I'll show you. Here, do some more. Hey, what time do you have to go to work?
The time. Oh shit! I gotta leave. I gotta leave here in like 15 minutes.
Well, I'm gonna let you get going because I don't want you wait for work. But as you can see, and then if I go over here, because it's fucking walls, so I will be buying a ladder at some point so I can actually get up here. And this is the only one way I can actually do this for myself. which is fucked up. But hey, I only work with what I can.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, and by the way, just to let you know, I also have a Blu-ray.com thing. I sent you my link tree.
Yeah.
So if you go on there, you can actually see my entire archive that I have of everything that I've cataloged. Now it's not complete, of course, because I've had to take down some stuff because of the when I lost everything. But you should be able to kind of see most of all my Blu-rays and all the and there's no a lot of the DVDs I have on there are also out of print, so they're not actually on there. So it's kind of skewed a little bit, but yeah. Anyway,
That was an
there you go.
amazing collection. I'm still in
That's
awe.
that's the wall. I'll have to once I actually pull out all the posters and stuff at some point. I'm gonna actually showcase them in a slideshow at some point because all I can't pull them out, of course, but I've already did and I already took photos of everything. Plus, I have a lot of signed posters that are in a closet right now that I can't take out that I can't show you. But eventually, once you see like the poster collection or the high art collection pop up on the slideshow, you'll be able to see everything. So
Oh, man.
yeah, but yeah. So yeah, so this is a little bit about me. I figured, I kind of just throw a lot at you real quick. And next time we have another interview, we can actually actually sit down and actually talk a little bit more about film and maybe even take a movie off and actually be like, hey, have you seen this? You know? And if you want on my Plex server, just send me your email and I'll get
Oh,
you. Okay.
sounds
Oh,
good.
yeah. So I don't want to wait. I don't want to make you wait late for work. But whenever you're available next time, just give me a chat and I'll get back on. We can have another little meeting.
Oh, yeah, it sounds amazing. This was mind-bogglingly amazing.
Have you actually before you leave? I guess my question is: have you ever had anyone else on your channel like this?
Not yet. No, I'm still starting. Like, I started the channel a little while ago, but I haven't really gotten anybody on yet to
Okay.
do anything. I guess this is something I've been wanting to do, but just haven't really found anybody interested in kind of doing it. This was like miles above what I thought it was going to be.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to have done that for you, and I love talking film. So this is all I want to do, and so if yeah, if you want to really sit down and actually start hammering things out, I mean, I'm more than welcome to do it with you.
I would love that.
Because I really do love your channel, and this is why I wanted to reach out to you because I actually think you have a wonderful channel, and so yeah, and the funny thing is my channel is really I just started like 5 weeks ago. 5 weeks ago. Yeah, is it 5 weeks ago? Yeah, I think it's 5 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago, something like that. It hasn't been that long. It's not been that long at all. So it's really good to kind of like meet other TikTok, creators on here. And eventually, once I do the intro to the YouTube show, then the YouTube show is really gonna start getting kicked off. And you can actually see some of my short films on YouTube. I also have short films on Vimeo. I've directed one feature, probably over 30 short films over the years. And then I've worked on a lot of different things, and I can get more into that at some point. But yeah, but anyway, uh, you run the work, and I will catch you on the flip side.
All right, I'll catch you on the side.
All right,
Later.
all right. I will catch you later,
I'll catch you later.
and I'm actually gonna have some questions for you the next time I get to see you again. Okay.
All right, sounds good.
All right. All
Uh,
right.
uh,
Bye.